Sports Talk Show. I'm Craig Koger.
And I'm Nick Podkins.
We're going to get it started with the Monday Night Football game last night. Arizona Cardinals lose at home to the San Francisco 49ers. What does this mean for each one of these teams?
Well, for the 49ers, it means that you have a chance to get back into the playoff race and win your division. But I still don't think they're going to. They play Green Bay this weekend. I think they'll lose that game. I think they lost too many games early in the season. Last night they looked pretty good. We talked yesterday, that was kind of their first road win besides the game in London where they won. But other than that, they played a not so good Arizona team who's got a lot of problems. Arizona, they win 2 more games. I mean, this division's so bad. I mean, a team that puts a 3-4 game winning streak on the line with these next 5 games could probably win this division. 8-8, or even at a 7-9 team. We talked yesterday. This division is probably the worst division in football. But the 49ers back in that race, only 1 game back now.
I agree with you. This is definitely the worst division in football for the 49ers. Like you said, it means they're kind of back in the hunt after the horrible start that they had. They've got a little hope right now, but like you said, they got some tough games coming up. They fell too far in the hole early in the season, and I've been saying the Rams for the last few weeks. I'm going to stick with the Rams to win this division. If I'm Arizona right now, the team's obviously in trouble. The team obviously needs a quarterback. Derek Anderson's not performing on the football field, but like we saw at the end of the game last night, he had a little fire in him against the media with that press conference. What do you think about Derek Anderson's little rant at the end of the game?
Yeah, the only fight that he seemed to have was at the end of against the media, and obviously he was kind of laughing. Him and this guard over there caught laughing on the sidelines where they're getting beaten down. So they questioned about it. Obviously he didn't like the line of questioning, and Arizona must be a place for rants. Obviously we all remember the Dennis Green's ran over there when he was their head coach. But I'll say Arizona, I don't think they was ready for Kurt Warner to retire. They didn't have a guy. They thought maybe Matt Leinart was the guy in place, but obviously he wasn't. They got rid of him. Derek Anderson's definitely not the answer. We see that. They need to draft a quarterback this season, whether it's Cam Newton or Locker from Washington, or even Luck from Stanford. One of those 3 guys probably be going to Arizona. They definitely need a quarterback there. That's their biggest problem. They have positions, talent other positions. A wideout, obviously Larry Fitzgerald, early Doucette. Running back, if Beanie Wells can stay healthy, Tim Hightower. Their defense is kind of suspect. They lost quite a few players in the offseason, but definitely they're missing Kurt Warner right now. And it's hard to replace a legend like Kurt Warner, but some teams can do it. We've seen it work well for Green Bay, but it has not worked well for Arizona.
And moving on from the NFL, we're going to go to TCU joining the Big East. What does this mean for TCU?
This is good for their football standpoint. They could probably win the TCU, right? TCU could probably win the Big East right now with that football program. The Big East doesn't really have a dominant powerhouse of football, but any other sports like basketball or anything like that, you got to question that concern, because the Big East is probably one of the best basketball schools, conferences in college basketball, women and men. So TCU, I'm not too sure what that means other than football, but good sport for the football, because now they get an automatic bid to play in a BCS game if they can continue with moving their program up.
I agree with you. It's a good move for TCU because, like this year they're going undefeated, but the question still is, if TCU was in the Big East right now and they went undefeated, would they still be able to fight Auburn or Oregon for that national title game? The Pac-10 and the SEC with Auburn down there. Who's to say what conference and which one of these automatic bids is better? That's why myself, and Nick, we're against the BCS. We want a playoff system in college football.
What's funny about that is the distance. I mean, you think of Texas and Big East, that's on the East Coast. Texas, they don't really belong there. It just proves to you that college is a football driven thing, because that's why teams are jumping from conference to conference to try to get into that football pool, to revenue sharing or whatever it is. This is last year, so we've seen quite a few teams jump their conference, and TCU is just another one now due to I think football alone on going to the Big East.
And back to the NFL, we didn't talk about the fight yesterday, but no suspensions were issued out to Andre Johnson and Cortland Finnegan over their actions in the game on Sunday. Was this the right call by the commissioner?
I'm kind of surprised that Andre Johnson or Cortland Finnegan didn't get suspended for a game or two. They only got fined $25,000, which, I mean, that's quite a bit of money to a regular guy, but I don't know how much money it is to them. Andre Johnson's not really, he's a respectable guy. This is kind of his first big offense like this. Cortland Finnegan, it seems like every week he's in some altercation with some receiver or some other guy on the other team getting into it. I'm surprised they didn't suspend him a game or two, but Andre Johnson's his first guy, kind of slap on the wrist here, and he'll be able to play this Thursday against the Eagles. I'm not too sure. When you throw punches in an NFL game, you think that a suspension, but they didn't suspend Richard Seymour either last week, so you got to keep it on the same grounds.
I don't think that this punishment really fits the crime. I think Seymour should have been suspended. And I think, Andre Johnson, throwing punches, he lost his cool. He's a good player in my opinion, but he lost his cool, and he deserves more than a $25,000 fine. He took a couple swings at a guy's head. Well, when a guy on defense is tackling a guy and hits him in the head, he gets $50,000 fine. So the fact these guys got a $25,000 fine, I think, the commissioner took it a little light for the situation.
Switching up a little baseball here, Troy Tulowitski signs an extension with the Rockies to be playing for them for the next 10 years till 2020. It looks like it's going to be about a $50 million deal. Is it good for the Rockies, or what do you think?
You know what, Troy Tulowitski is a good player. He's been good for Colorado, but I'm just a little bit against these really, really long contracts, because baseball is a really long season, and year after year, it puts a toll on these guys playing 162 games a year. And who's to say in 4 or 5 years that Troy Tulowitski is even going to be producing half of what he is right now, and then you're stuck with the guy for the final 3 or 4 years of his contract when he's underproducing. Me being a Chicago Cubs fan, I know all about these large contracts and guys not producing up to him later on in the contract, and I'm a little against the super long deals. 5-6 years is all right, but this locks him up for another 10 years.
You're exactly right. That's locked him up for a long time, but he's their MVP guy. He put up MVP numbers this season. He's kind of their captain. They didn't re-sign Matt Holliday a couple years ago. They kind of keep these guys around. Todd Helton's been there for a while as well. So now he's a Rocky for life. He's going to retire a Colorado Rocky, it seems like, unless he's going to keep playing. But he's a good guy. I think you're exactly right. I think 5-6 years is good enough, but he's been playing there for the next 10 seasons, so we'll see Tulowitski in a Rockies uniform, it seems like, for a very long time. Switching up a little bit, a different NBA game going on last night. Finally, not a Heat subject going on. We talk about the Thunder. They come back and beat the Wizards behind Russell Westbrook's last night. How good are the Thunder, and how good are they going to be in the West?
From the beginning of the year, I've said that I think the Thunder is going to get home court in the first round of the playoffs. I think they're going to finish in the top 4. Looking at the West right now, there's a lot of good teams. You got San Antonio and the Lakers at the top, but you got the Mavericks, the Jazz, the Thunder, the Hornets. There's a lot of good teams that are going to be competing for those 3 and 4 spots when we get to closer to the playoff picture. But right now the Thunder, they seem like a team that's growing together. They're all young, they're learning together, and I think they're going to do nothing but get better. So I'm going to stick with my pick, and I think the Thunder will finish in the top 4 in the West by the end of the year.
The Thunder are very good. They're very athletic. They last season they challenged the Lakers. I thought they gave the Lakers the toughest challenge in the West due to their athleticism. They have a star in Kevin Durant. Russell Westbrook is becoming that Robin to his Batman. He's averaging a double-double, over 20 points, close to 10 assists. He just needs to cut down on his turnovers. It seems like last night it was him who carried that team to that comeback, not Kevin Durant. He's putting up some good numbers. He's becoming a star in this league. And possibly, I'm not an MVP candidate, but maybe a most improved player, maybe an all-star caliber type player Russell Westbrook's turned into. And you already have him with the Kevin Durant, who is an MVP type caliber. So everybody wants to talk about Dwayne Wade and LeBron James. Well, look out for Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, because they're so young. These two guys grow together. They could be good for a very long time. A maybe Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen scenario going on there with these two young guys.
All right, and moving on back to the NFL, Coach Josh McDaniels. We've had the kind of Spygate thing going on the last couple weeks. He's struggled in Denver. He won his first 5 games, I think, in Denver ever since they've struggled. He's lost 16 to 21 games there. What's the future for Josh McDaniels in Denver?
I'm not too sure, man. It seems like a lot of guys didn't want to play for him. They got rid of their two best players that they had there in Jay Cutler, and they got rid of Brandon Marshall. Remember, they also traded the Hillis kid that went to that's tearing it up for the Browns for Brady Quinn. That hasn't really looked out good for the Denver either. He hasn't made Kyle Orton a star or stud in this league. He's tearing it up. But other than that, this team's not very good. Like you said, when you lose 16 in the last 23 games, that's not too well. He's struggling, but he did get a vote of confidence from his owner. This is only his second year. I always think you got to give a guy 2-3 years to really work it out. He's young. This is his first time head coach. Maybe they'll get it together next year, but obviously this season's down the drain. Last year they started hot and ended bad. It's kind of like he hasn't done any better than what the guy that got rid of him in Mike Shanahan, and that's you got to know when you fire a coach you want to improve, and they haven't improved. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree with you. He hasn't lived up to the hype yet. Taken over from Mike Shanahan, he just hasn't led the Broncos in a very good direction. In the beginning, everybody thought he was great, but he's young. I believe he's the youngest head coach in the NFL. Like you said, it might take him a couple more years to get it going. And they lost some good players. They lost some talent on that team. And there's some good teams in that division. There's some good teams in the AFC. And right now Denver's not one of those good teams. They're not one of those elite teams. And I think. Even though I think Josh McDaniels could have some more success if they kept him next year, I don't necessarily think that the Denver Broncos are going to keep him around for next season.
All right, switching up a little college basketball tomorrow night. Number 1 Duke faces Michigan State, a potential Final Four matchup. Who do you like in this one? Who are our guys for tonight?
I'm going to have to go with Duke. I thought maybe Duke would get upset by Kansas State last week. It didn't happen. They looked very strong against them. And right now, Michigan State, they lost to UConn last week. They've been struggling a little bit, not looking like a powerhouse, and right now not looking like a team that's going to beat the Duke Blue Devils the way they're playing right now.
I think you're exactly right. Michigan State they usually kind of tumble out of the gates and they get strong down the stretch. They're always a very well-turned team. I love these two coaches, probably my two favorite coaches, and Coach K and Tom Izzo. They both always have their teams ready to play, and always, especially tournament time. But I'll tell you what, Duke looks better now than when they won the whole thing back in March. They're the best team in college basketball. I expect them. They're my pick to win it all again this season. They have everybody returned almost from last season, along with the Curry kid and a couple other guys that have matured more and are playing more minutes and getting better games. I like Duke to win this game. I like Duke to win the whole thing come March time.
All right, that's it for today's sports fans. This is BnK Sports Talk. Check us out on Facebook at BnK Sports Talk, or email us any comments, questions at bnksportstalk@hotmail.com. I'm Craig Koger.
And I'm Nick Watkins. Thanks for tuning in.